And then dental niche director, you can go down and go, okay, well, what are the specific trees that I should probably be listed on? But it's not gonna be more than like 50 tops. And really what you wanna think about is, if somebody's searching for my business name, what are the business directories that are valued enough by Google that they rank for a branded search? And you can do some research to figure those out. Go get listed on those ones. That would be important.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. And I hope you're doing well from where you're listening to this conversation. And Supercharge Your Dental Practice 2025 just ended, and I'm really excited to have a guest who is going to be speaking at Supercharge 2026. Before we get into it, I want to always thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence, CallRail, and Net32 for their continued support. And today's episode is something I'm very passionate about. We're calling it what really impacts rankings when it comes to Google reviews. This guest was on a previous episode and is one of my favorite episodes that I always point out to when people ask me what they should listen to. That's the one episode that I want them to listen to because it was so well done. So I'm inviting him back for a second episode, and as I mentioned, he will be speaking at Supercharge 2026, which is September 25th and 26th in Fort Lauderdale. Today's guest is Colan Nielsen from Sterling Sky. Colan is a seasoned local SEO expert who launched his career in 2010. In 2014, he became a Google product expert for the Google My Business Forum, where he helped thousands of business owners navigate the complexities of Google My Business. His expertise and passion for local search led him to join the Sterling Sky team in 2017 as vice president of local search. Since then, Colan has also served as faculty member at Local U and as an administrator at the Local Search Forum, both of which are affiliate organizations of Sterling Sky. An accomplished thought leader in the industry, Colan is a regular speaker at top industry and business conferences, sharing his knowledge and insights on local SEO with audience around the world. He's also a contributor to well-respected publications like Search Engine Land and Moz, offering valuable guidance on local search trends and strategies. When he's not immersed in the world of local SEO, Colan enjoys spending quality time with his wife, son, and daughter. And I'll also make note that when I was just getting into the marketing space for my dental practice, I used Colan when he was at his old agency. So that's how Colan and I go way back a long, long, long time. So, Colan, welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast.
Len, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this as we're both passionate about this. Obviously, my entire career now, which isn't in the mouth anymore, focuses around reviews and ranking. So this is something I'm really excited to talk to you about. So thank you for finding the time to be here, and thank you for accepting my invitation to speak at Supercharge 2026. I'm excited to have you there.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. We do, as you know, Len, a ton of testing at Sterling Sky. We're a testing first agency. So anytime we have an opportunity to kind of share some of the things we're learning, we get after it. Because I think the more business owners can understand about what's current and what's working currently, because we know how quickly that stuff changes, the better. The better for everybody.
That's great. So this is I was fortunate, and I say I'm fortunate, I'm a hard worker too, but I picked something that has stood the test of time. When I focused my career on online reviews, I mean, this was back in 2013, the end of 2012 actually. Yep. And which is, you think about it, it's 13 plus years ago. There isn't a whole lot of other marketing stuff that's been, as important, if not more important in that timeline, if you think about it. MySpace was important, then it went away. I mean, there are things that just don't last that long, and this has lasted as long and longer and will continue to be as super important for patients to come into your practice. So, like I said, I'm really excited to jump in here and talk about kind of how reviews affect the ranking of a business. So let's start off with your take on where the industry is. And what I mean by the industry is the marketing space plus the review space, and where you see the now as what's important, or you're looking 2 or 3 years down the road where you see things, what's going to be important in that time frame as well.
Yeah, I think I say this often if I'm teaching or speaking at a conference, and I'm talking to business owners, and I say, look, if you run a great business, you deliver like legendary customer service, right? Your customer service is 10x your next competitor. Like, you're really putting the time and effort into that. Over time, Google will figure that out, right? That will naturally find its way into your Google reviews and reviews on other sites. And so in a weird way, I think you could probably be successful from a visibility perspective if you did nothing other than truly be the best business in your market. Now, with that said, as SEOs, our job, or at least the way I think about it, is to come in and we're like this middleman standing between the business over here and Google over here. For some reason, whenever I do this analogy, I kind of want to look up. It's like maybe Google's up there somewhere. And our job as SEOs is to kind of wave our hands and say, hey, like Google, like over here, see this business? They're doing an incredible job, and quickly, you need to come see what they're doing. And so an SEO's job is to expedite or speed up the process in which Google's going to recognize that that's a good business. And so with all that said, the things I wanted to talk about today are, all right, let's assume you're running a great business. What are the tactical, or as we peel back the technical kind of ranking algorithm part of it, what are some specific tactics or things I can be thinking about as a business owner that will influence the visibility of my reviews? Like, how do I take those to the next level?
I want to clarify something, because I always do when I give seminars as well, Colin. This is not related to your website. And I always like to say this stuff is entirely separate. You have your website company that does your website design, and then they do SEO on your website. Okay? We're talking about your Google business listing, your Google business profile, it's called now, and getting that to be more visible, or have more eyes on that listing itself. So this is what we call local SEO, which is very different from what a website company does. So I just want to clarify that, because I think there's this mass confusion, especially in the dental industry, and I'm trying to change it when I speak. When you have reviews, you don't necessarily, you can have the most reviews in your town, and you may not be on the map at all. So there are factors that are involved there, and that's really where we're going to focus a lot of our conversation today, but I wanted to get it out of the way. So can you jump into, realistically, what is affecting the ranking, where the reviews play a role, et cetera, et cetera? I'll let you kind of go on there. I may interject and ask you a couple questions here and there, but I'll let you kind of go on your off on your road, and we'll see where it takes us.
Let's do that. And I'm going to share a couple slides here, and for those who are listening via audio and maybe don't have access to the video, we'll explain these things as we go through. There's nothing that you're not going to grasp as we go through this, but we've got some extra visuals here for anyone that's watching through video. So, quick story. Let's kick this off with a story. A friend of mine, in fact, this was the sister of the founder of our company here at Sterling Sky. Her name's Joy Hawkins. She was in the market looking for a home service company to come and do some emergency level work that she needed done. And so she started doing her research, and she noticed, like, hey, okay, on Google, this business has almost 30 reviews, a 4.6. That's, it's not outstanding, but it's not horrible. On Facebook, 149 votes, almost had a full, five-star rating. So it's like, great, this business looks good. She started to dig in a little bit more and saw a completely different story on some of these other platforms. So Google's like, hey, this business is wonderful. HomeStars is like, well, hold on a sec here. We've got some serious problems. 4.7 out of 10, over 100 reviews. This other site, Trusted Pros, they had a 1.3 rating out of 26 reviews. She then went to Yelp, 27 reviews, 1 star out of 5. Right? Like, how in the world is this the same business that Google was just promoting? And then you go to the BBB, and they've got an F. And they've got 1 star out of 5, over 29 customer reviews. So something really weird was happening here. And so this is Joy tweeting about this whole situation, and she says, hey, my sister almost hired a plumbing company in Canada that is currently on the consumer beware list because they've got loads of fake listings and reviews on Google. And unfortunately, Google's done an insanely poor job of removing them. Okay, so she used this report by this company called the Transparency Company. It's a pretty sophisticated thing. They got a fail. So it went through all their Google reviews and made the determination using data that their Google reviews were fake. And that's why it looked good on Google, but not these other sites. And so we got to thinking about this, and we're like, unfortunately, it's not just these terrible businesses that are like buying reviews and engaged in all these fake practices. This is a widespread issue. And we came across this quote, and this is this guy named Michael Luca from this article, Fake It Till You Make It, Reputation and Competition. He's like, a restaurant is more likely to commit review fraud when its reputation is weak, right? If it has fewer reviews or it has recently received bad reviews, even legit businesses are panicking and they're going down these roads of paid reviews and doing all this stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And part of the reason for this is a trend that we're seeing, is that one-star reviews are much more common today than they were in the last 10 years, let's say. And if you think about the percentage of distribution, what's been happening over the last 4 years is that 5-star reviews as a percentage of overall reviews have been increasing every single year. Okay, more 5-star reviews. The only other buckets of reviews that have been increasing are the 1-star. 4-star, 3-star, 2-star reviews have been declining, which means people are really only leaving reviews if they're raving fans or if they're pissed off. So how does a legitimate business compete is the thing we've been thinking about, because we work with dental clinics who are legitimate businesses. They want to do a good job. Unfortunately, they're competing against some of these other practices that, whether they know it or not, most of them know, they're engaging in some of these tactics to get ahead of the competition that Google would have major problems with. Okay. And so today, I think some of the things we should talk about are some results, some things that we've observed through our testing to answer some questions, give you some tactics around how reviews actually impact ranking, because that's something you can focus on. We want to talk about things like, how can you as a business owner better control which reviews Google actually shows? Okay, and we'll learn more about this. So Len, I want to get into some very specific examples here, and I'm going to end each of these questions with your prescription, if you will. What is the to-do, the thing to take away that you can go and start thinking about?
Before you go there, I want to let you know, I had Curtis Boyd from the Transparency Report on my podcast once. So I know Curtis. I actually had a practice send me a competitor of theirs that they thought was manipulating the reviews. And I, as a favor, sent it to Curtis, and Curtis ran it through his algorithm and said like 85% of the reviews were fake. So, you know, that product is really, really good. So I know I saw it in your newsletter that you sent out. And by the way, if you have not subscribed to their newsletter, I highly recommend it. It's one of the only ones I read and actually get a lot of data from. So well done there, Colan, just so you know.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so I just want to confirm that the Transparency Report is legitimate, and I want to continue to listen in, because I'm learning a lot just by you doing this as well. So
yeah, probably the most sophisticated software that does what their software does, which is trying to figure out if somebody's engaged in fake reviews. This is one of the most common questions that we will hear business owners ask, but also it's still like debated to some degree within the SEO world, and that's, does the actual text of the review impact rankings, right? So if somebody specifically mentions dental implants or cosmetic dentist, does that influence your rankings for cosmetic dentist? And what we've noticed is a lot of people assume that it does because of these things called review justifications. Right, so if somebody, you could go perform the search right now and go do a search for emergency dentist NYC or Denver, pick a city, it doesn't matter. Typically what happens is Google will show you these top 3 maps results, and then nested kind of right underneath that result will be a snippet from a review. Okay, and usually what happens is the content of that review will match the search query. So if you said, I'm looking for an emergency dentist near me, well, it'll probably pull in a review where the reviewer has mentioned emergency dentist, right? Or they have great dental emergency services. And so people go, oh, yeah, well, that means that that text in the review has influenced my ability to rank. But what we've learned is it's the other way around. And the reason these are called review justifications is because Google is taking that snippet as part of the justification as to why they're showing that search result in the first place, right? It's not the cause, but it's the justification for it. So that's why I think a lot of people think the review text matters. But in all our testing, it doesn't seem to have a ranking impact. And I'll show you, or we'll talk about an interesting example.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because this is many years ago, but I would get calls randomly that they would ask if I do free dentistry. I'm like, free dentistry? No, why would you say that? He goes, well, Google told me you did free dentistry. And I couldn't understand that. I'm like, we're absolutely not free. And this is many years ago, and I don't remember if it was you or someone else I reached out to, but I had patients commenting about our free parking. And they saw the free in there. And then when people asked for free dentistry, they pulled the term free in, and I was showing up for free dentistry. So just similar justification there, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And now that we're talking specifically about ranking impact, but you could make the case that there would be a use case to have a patient mention a specific service because it would influence your ability to have those snippets get pulled in. Okay, but from a ranking perspective, let's not make that part of our strategy. So the story here, disclaimer, don't try this at home. Okay, this isn't something I would recommend everyone go out and test, but in the spirit of science, this is something that we just had to do, Len. So we were experimenting with, it was a Christmas tree farm, and we did this test in the middle of summer, and the reason we did that was because we'd be the only people leaving reviews, right? It's the middle of summer, who's looking for a Christmas tree? And they had a garbage website. There was no obvious SEO happening with this business. So we really tried to isolate a business where if there was going to be any impact from adding reviews with specific words in them, we'd confidently be able to isolate that as the thing that impacted ranking. And so, again, see my disclaimer, we had multiple people from our team go in. We wrote reviews. So my colleague Nikki did one at the end of May, and then Joy did one in beginning of June. Then there was another one in June, a third review towards the end of June. I did one in July, and then we had the 6th review posted in August. Now keep in mind, all of these reviews included things that we were trying to check and see if like the word tree, company, tree, etc. These were all part of the reviews and things we were tracking rankings on. Here's, and some of them were kind of funny. Was Brian's. He's talking about they have baller trees, but you can see he's mentioned the word tree, multiple times here. So all the reviews were like this. As a side note, my Joy's and mine both got removed. So we got caught up in the review filter. And what I have up here is ranking grids showing rankings before and after these very specific reviews were left with the exact keyword in the review that we were tracking here. And there was no ranking improvement for those keywords. In fact, one of them declined in ranking, which was interesting. So we rinsed and repeat this test over and over and over again, and really just came to the conclusion that, and again, business owners ask us this all the time, and we say, do not coach people through reviews, because A, you're not supposed to. Google tells you not to do that. B, there's no positive impact. There's nothing good that's really going to come out of you saying, hey, when you write that review, make sure to mention dental implants. If you can mention the city, that would be great. From a ranking perspective, it's not worth it.
Got it. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. How about, just on a side note, if somebody does mention on their own, they put the word Invisalign in their review, when you respond, how does using the word Invisalign, saying, thank you so much, we love doing Invisalign in our practice, does that have any known effect? Is that something you were even going to cover? I didn't want to steal your thunder. So, but is there any help there at all?
That's a good question, and another one that we get all the time. So, from a ranking perspective, doesn't seem to have any influence. And I always say when you're thinking about your review responses, it's such an underrated primetime opportunity to let the business shine in terms of showing your future patients how you handle feedback. So like remove any form of like ranking manipulation from that specific exercise and just say, when I'm responding to reviews, how do I make it so that A, the person who's going to get the notification that I responded feels warm and fuzzy and it closes the feedback loop, and B, future patients who see my response are going to be like, wow, it's pretty amazing how they're like attentive to all the feedback they get.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Let's talk about review velocity, which what we're really talking about here is number of reviews, right? Does that impact ranking? Sheer number of reviews. And to some degree it does. Okay, so this was a business here and we're tracking the rankings, 3 reviews, not good rankings. They then had 16 reviews. You can start to see the rankings started to expand and improve. By the time they got to 31 reviews, that had expanded a little bit more. But what we noticed is there does seem to be this element of like diminishing returns. If you're just looking at the total number of reviews as your goal, right? Your KPI. Now, there was a couple things I would say are in play here. So one, there's the law of diminishing returns. And then, so you can I've got this graph up now showing that over time, as the reviews were increasing, their total top 3 rankings were also increasing. But then suddenly we got to this point where that pattern stopped. Okay, so the reviews continued to go up, but suddenly we lost some of the total top 3 rankings. So if you're going to think about a nominal number, there's really only one that we've been able to measure that has an ongoing, repetitive, like this always impacts ranking, and it's that number 10, review. This is a quote from Joel Headley. This is going back several years where we first heard this spoken about publicly, and he said, hey, at Patient Pop, where he worked at the time, he said an increase in appointment leads when there were over 10 reviews, what was basically the norm that they were seeing. So we're like, all right, we got to test this. We got to make sure this is actually repeatable. It's a real thing, not a one-off. So in this test, we took 8 different home service businesses all across the USA. 4 of them already had 10 reviews. 4 of them had 9 reviews. Half of them were service area businesses with like their address hidden, and then the others were brick and mortar businesses. And so what we noticed when we tested this is when a business went from 9 to 10, like that very specific jump from 9 to 10, rankings would improve. And sometimes it was drastic. Sometimes it was a smaller improvement if it was more competitive or like a stronger, like a concentrated market, but it always improved. Here's another example here. Now, what was interesting is the ones that we tested where they went from 10 to 11, because our first thought was, well, like, is it really 10? Is that the thing? Well, it turns out it is. Because when we tested listings going from 10 to 11, nothing happened. It's like that magic 10 number. So we've got a couple examples of 10 to 11. Very flat line. And then, yes, rankings improve, but interestingly, in almost all the cases that we've looked at so far, when that business hits the 10th review, which improves their visibility, you are usually able to measure a corresponding impact to calls coming in from your Google business profile, which is what you want. So the to-do list, especially if you're a newer practice or probably won't get too deep into this today, but hey, maybe you have a use case to set up a practitioner listing at your office. Okay, so your second Google business profile, or you're opening up a new location, 10 reviews, that's your first goal. Do everything you can to hit that 10th review, because it's going to give you a measurable boost from a ranking perspective.
Got it. That's interesting. Now, in terms of just terminology, I look at review velocity as the how often you're getting them versus the total number. So you're using review velocity in this case as the actual total number of reviews that you're getting.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Maybe we should kind of clarify that, because the next one, you could probably swap velocity into the word I'm going to use. So maybe for our audience, I'm so glad you brought that up. Let's say that what we just talked about was strictly talking about your total number of reviews. And the one that we're going to go into next is actually the one that would be better defined as velocity or recency.
Recency, okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a good clarification.
Yep. All right, good. I'm glad I asked that.
Review recency, or another way I like to think about this, is your, let's say, average monthly number of reviews that you seem to be getting on a regular basis. And so what we typically see, and this was one of the things, one of the clients that turned us onto this, got a graph up right now showing that over time, this business, as they were seeing a nice increase in reviews over time, they were also seeing an increase in rankings. Okay, so as the consistency, the velocity of reviews continued, everything was good. And then we flatlined for a couple months, where we're like, all of a sudden it's sending the signal to Google that this historical pattern is now shut off. We saw a corresponding flatline in rankings. So the rankings kind of shut off as the review velocity cooled down.
Got it.
And there's some grids just showing that over time, rankings improving. But the key here, to your point, and again, I'm so glad you clarified this, is what this is reflecting is the consistency, the recency of those reviews continuing to happen over time. And if that pattern gets disrupted, that is the signal to Google where they're going to start to demote things, especially if your competitors are continuing with a velocity that's above yours.
Got it. So I have a question. So obviously 10 reviews is not a lot. So when you're talking to someone, they have 600, 700, 800 reviews. Obviously there's some law of diminishing returns, as you pointed out. But I want to clarify for this conversation that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be getting reviews anymore. So you still want to continue to get reviews, because that also, if you stop all of a sudden getting no reviews, you're going to most likely drop in the rankings. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And let me, Len, I'm going to switch and bring something else up on my screen here. And then maybe what we could do, just for time's sake, is I want to make sure if we've got any burning questions that we kind of get to those.
Sure.
Okay, so this will paint a little bit of a picture in terms of the way we're thinking about this. I would highly recommend that any business owner out there who is investing in SEO and understands that their Google Maps rankings are critical to their business, has a tool or somebody working with them that's able to give them some very specific review metrics. And the key here is in relationship to my competition. And so this is a typical report that we run, and this actually pulls data from an API of, in this case, it's pulling from a tool called Places Scout, a tool that we love, and we can just pull all this lovely data in through their API. And what I want to understand on a regular basis are some very specific things here. So this is showing me that in this market, for this specific dentist, it can tell me what my rating is, what the top 5 average competitor rating is, what all of my competitors together, what their average is, and then I want to know the difference between me and them. And so you can see here we've got rating, which is important, we've got total number of reviews. Then we've got monthly reviews, which would be the recency one that we talked about. That is the number that we are paying the most attention to lately, and especially in relationship to this top 5 average. Okay. Now, as your audience knows, because they're super smart, there's all kinds of ranking factors, and reviews aren't the only ranking factor. But every time we've been able to do ranking assessments in almost every market, we see a really strong correlation between being in this top 5 average of like having the monthly average number of reviews. It's very potent. What's even probably more useful as a business owner, because we want to be able to look to the future and we want to try to predict things as best we can. Well, if you have a tool that's telling you what your top 5 average competitor review volume is on a monthly basis, and we can plot that back, say 6 months, we can look at patterns and go, oh, wow, I've got this one competitor in my market that has 400 less reviews than we do today. But when I look at their monthly average over the last 6 months, do a quick little calculation, in 6 months from now, they're ahead of us. But like I can almost predict that all things being equal, they're going to get ahead of me in 6 months from now. So that becomes my focus.
I just want to clarify, and then for those that can't see this, but that office that you're looking at, the top 5 average, and it's there is 10.8, and they're 5. So they're 53.7% below the top 5 average, going from 10.8 to 5. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Got it.
And
okay.
so this will give me, and I think where this also becomes potent is because in some markets, I think business owners get discouraged because they'll look at a competitor who has, there's always that guy who's got, 1,500 reviews, and it doesn't make any sense because the next closest is like 500, and there's a cluster around 500. Well, you don't have to make that 1,500 reviews your goal. You just have to understand on a micro level, month over month, what is the velocity? Usually that becomes a much more digestible, snackable goal to go after.
And what was that program called again?
So Places Scouts is the tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because that's good for me when I do demos too, to show people how they compare to the averages that are out there. So I want to just go through some questions that I get a lot, and we'll go through these fairly quickly. We'll use this as my lightning round stuff rather than asking you other questions unrelatable to this. We always seem to talk about things that are super exciting. So primary category, which is the thing when you Google yourself, you'll see your Google reviews, you'll see your star rating, and usually below that it says dentist in a town or dentist in a county. Obviously, I was curious how much primary category plays a role in ranking, because I know people have dental clinic, especially in Canada, where it's called a clinic. They don't call that in the U.S., by the way. It's dental practice. But dentist versus a doctor, somebody had doctor, and they don't rank. So how much does primary category play a role? And then how much do secondary categories play a role as well?
Yeah, primary category is still massive. It's incredibly influential. If we were to stack them up, it's in the top 3 most influential things. So getting that right is important. I would also say that the additional 9 categories that you can add have also become more influential, right? So getting those right is really important. Got
it. Okay. And then, and again, I'm only going through things that I've learned over the years. So where Google puts the center of the city, or the centroid as they call it, obviously that is unchangeable. Google picks that. But also that's a ranking factor that nobody can change, right? The closer you are to that center, the higher you're going to rank in general.
Yeah, so that's the case. But the important thing is that it only influences keywords where somebody's actually typing in the city name into their search query. So if you are wanting to rank for cosmetic dentist Denver, the closer your map pin is to that city center Denver, it'll influence that. But if somebody's just searching for, let's just say that person's in Denver, but they're just typing in cosmetic dentist or cosmetic dentist near me, then that signal about being close to the centroid virtually goes away, and now Google's just looking for the closer businesses.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And then we talked about the number of reviews. We talked about the recency or velocity of reviews. And then the other ranking factor, which I'm curious about, which I think we discussed briefly at some point, was these citations, these listings. Where do they, or how much do they play a role in ranking if there's a new business versus someone who's been in practice for a very long time, but there's still a lot of discrepancies related to the name, address, and phone number?
Yeah, there's some good lists out there from, White Spark's got one, Bright Local's got one. Just search top, directories in the U.S. or Canada, and you'll find some lists there. And they're typically going to be 20, 30, 40 tops important directories that you probably want to be listed on, like general business directories. And then you can go down and go, okay, well, what are the specific dental niche directories that I should probably be listed on? But it's not going to be more than like 50 tops. And really what you want to think about is if somebody's searching for my business name, what are the business directories that are valued enough by Google that they rank for a branded search? And you can do some research to figure those out. Go get listed on those ones. That would be important.
Got it. Reviews are so important now for the trust, for the ranking, for everything that you want to be. You want to get more patients. You need to have visibility and credibility. It's what I talk about. Do you think this is something that's going to continue to change or continue to be as important? Do you think it's going to get more important? What role do you think this plays in the AI, which everybody's talking about with, using, searching, best dentist in my town on ChatGPT? That's, if you look at the data, because I've done that search many times, it's still very much review based. Is that the future as well, you think?
For sure. Yeah. And I think one of the things we're seeing with ChatGPT, for sure, is third-party directory sites seem to be more influential than they are for Google rankings, especially with some of those specific queries like best dentist, best cosmetic dentist. Some of the things that ChatGPT is telling you that it's using to source those are quite interesting and not necessarily the ones that we would think of as the Google-related entities that we need to get listed on. So yes, it's only going to become more important if you think of your reputation as a business owner as a whole is now much more wide encompassing than just Google itself, easily.
So if a dentist called you up and said, I need some advice, where would you tell them to continue to put their eggs in the local SEO basket versus other aspects of marketing that are out there now? And then one other question I had is, and it's totally unrelated to reviews, but when someone is doing a Google ad, so they're paying for ads, what is your feeling about branded searches with Google ads? So when someone types in your practice name, yep, your ad comes up, but as you know, your Google business listing is going to be on the right-hand side. So, which to me, that's a waste of money, but I'm curious, you're more of an expert. I'm curious what your feeling is.
Yeah, so the first question, remind me of the first question, Len. I had it there, and it just
the first question I asked you was, do you think that people should be pouring all their efforts into the reviews? Do you see that as really what's going to sustain even for years to come, or is there something magical down the road that you think is going to change? And then there was the other question related to the ad and the branded AdWords.
Cool. Yeah, we're definitely seeing, so we have a lot of tests happening, testing the large language model search engines. And like we're seeing some surprises. And there's a lot of folks who, like I've heard make statements such as traditional SEO or traditional local SEO is all you really need to rank really well. And you don't really need to learn any new skill sets or figure new things out. The stuff we're seeing, we would actually tend to disagree with that. There does seem to be some things that, and some of these are old school things that used to work with like Google SEO 10, 15 years ago, are now oddly working for getting visibility in some of these large language model search engines. And I think part of that is because they're still young, right? They're still, they're kind of like little kids, whereas Google is this grown adult. For sure, reviews are like a big part of everything. But just as an example, like press releases seem to be making a comeback in terms of their influence on both
Interesting.
AI overviews, ChatGPT. So I think what's old is kind of new again. Don't know how long that'll last, but you definitely want to have somebody working on these things that understands that it's not the exact same as trying to rank on Google. There are some different things happening with the LLMs.
And then back to my AdWord question. What do you think about the branded AdWord and then versus just focused on obviously AdWords that are not, or keywords that are not related to your brand, because your Google business page is going to show when people are typing you in directly?
Yeah, it's still like a age-old debate, and I hear so many people with different, relatively strong opinions on what to do. I think if you perform a branded search and you don't have competitors showing up there, right? Because competitors can bid on your name. It happens all the time. Then you probably don't have a real strong use case for doing kind of branded stuff. If your Google SERP, if you will, your Google homepage, when somebody's searching and doing research about you, looks pristine and it's great and you're happy with it, and there's no competitors bidding on your brand name, then I don't think there's a real strong argument to be made that you need to be bidding on your brand.
The reason I say that is I was talking to an orthodontist, and the orthodontist showed me their AdWords spend, and they were spending $2,000 a month, and 3/4 of the money they were spending was on their name, not on anything else. It was a branded keyword, which again didn't make any sense to me. So that's why I was just curious your thoughts. It was a question that came up, and like I said, some of this stuff you're a bit bigger expert than I am. So you may be looking at the time, guys. We're 41 minutes in. You know, Colan and I can probably do 50 podcasts and continue talking. So I think for this one in general, and we'll bring Colan back. Colan's literally one of my favorite guests, and you may want to go back and find the old episode because it's still relevant to what we talked about. So Colan, if anybody, obviously they'll see you at Supercharge next year in 2026 when you come and speak, which I'm really excited about. But if someone has some questions, they're interested in what you as Sterling Sky can do for them, what's the easiest way for them to reach out to find out more?
Yeah, speaking of our Google homepage, we've got a pretty good Google homepage. So just simply going to Google and doing a search for Sterling Sky, you'll find lots of great things there. Our website, which is of course where you can subscribe to our newsletter. We also are incredibly active producing videos on our YouTube channel. We're producing videos multiple times per month. So you can search Sterling Sky YouTube. You'll find our channel. We have over 111,000 subscribers. We put a lot of time and effort into that. I'd say that's a great place. And we have a really exciting announcement coming up, I believe, in the next 2 weeks, I think. That's going to be really exciting and interesting. I can't say anything just yet, but I believe we'll be pushing some content out to our YouTube video when this happens.
Well, that's great. As always, thank you for being a guest, and thank you for wanting to come and it's really interesting over the years how our we were this way with our industries. Now we're very much connected when it comes to reviews. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, guys, if you like the episode and you have interest in learning what Sterling Sky can do for you, please reach out to them and obviously let them know you heard about them through this podcast. Always is helpful. Remember to thank our sponsors, both Dental Intelligence, CallRail, and Net32 for their support. And as I end every single one of our episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next one, Colan, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to you soon.